Okay.
All right. You can just call the meeting to order and say the date and all that stuff.
Get going on it. Okay.
Well, you can say it's a committee and, you know.
Okay. All right. I'd like to call the meeting of the 36-1 Buttonball Road Committee to order. And it's 8:04. I think maybe Jared wasn't here at the last meeting, so he's not going to be able to comment on the minutes anyway.
Oh.
So I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. And are there any comments on the minutes? Any changes needed? Okay. All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Okay, thank you. All righty. So moving on to the next item, old business. We did complete the surveys, so hope you've all had a chance to look at them.
Yeah.
And, that should help us with our future plans. There's Martha.
Some alerts on flooding on the roads. It's bad. Mile Creek has got major ponding going on.
Happened quick.
Yeah.
For the two of you who've just joined, all we did was start the meeting and we approved them. And I mentioned that we have the surveys completed, and I hope you all had a chance to look at that. And then the other item that we wanted to accomplish by this meeting was for Mike and Tim to meet with the abutters to sort out concerns with trespassing signs. Again, I think the objective was to have signs that did not discourage people from entering the property, but also signs that protect the abutters. So, Tim and Mike, maybe you can let us know what you learned.
Actually, we didn't have much progress.
Okay.
Phil, I think, is aware of the issue with the signs, and you know he'll have to defer any final decision to the board of the club. But I don't think there'd be any problem in having it down the road as opposed to at the top of the road where it might be construed as trying to shoot people away from the whole property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a rainy morning this morning when I walked the property, but when I drove in, there was no trespassing sign that struck me. And it was very obvious at the head of the road, so I'm not sure that even exists at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that yesterday, and what struck me was, do we know for a fact that is actually on Blackhall property as opposed to town property? I mean, it's right.
They do own the property on the right.
Well, they own the whole property. It's just the town has the right-of-way over, a 40-foot wide right-of-way over it. So basically that 40-foot right-of-way allows us for 40-foot wide improvement of the area.
I understand that, but it's also along the road, and the town owns certain portions of the roadway. So is it on the roadway property, or is it on Blackhall property?
I'm pretty sure it's on Blackhall property.
Is it just the one sign left?
No, there's two. There's one up on like the main road, about 25 feet to the left of the entrance. It's up in a tree.
Okay.
And if you're standing on Buttonball,
yeah,
it's on the main road. But it's not on the main road. It's on Blackhall Club's property, but it's harder to see now because the trees have kind of grown in. And then as soon as you take that left into the property, depending if you're coming from like the mower shop, there's one eye level right on your left.
That one. I mean, even if the sign was just turned like 90 degrees, you know, like when you mark a farm or something.
Sort of parallel to the property line.
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to be parallel to the property line. So instead it faces down the long axis of the road. So even if it was just turned, I mean, it's a pretty simple thing to do, at least in the meantime.
Okay.
Yeah, the real concern would be to keep people out of the area where it goes into their property.
Down to the bottom of the hill on the right. Because anything beyond where that tree is actually like a little drop off.
I don't think anybody's walking in off the road to that property. I mean, it's nowhere to walk in there. So, I mean.
Well, I think from talking to Phil, there's some concerns. People do go to that pond. There's access to the pond.
The sign's nowhere near the pond.
At this point in time.
Well,
at this point in time.
I guess if they own the property the whole way, it would be a question of where would the sign best be situated to keep people from leaving stuff on their property down below. That's probably right where it opens up.
Yeah, at the bottom of the hill.
At the bottom of the hill on the right and the left.
Yeah.
Okay, so to move this along, I mean, I think this sounds like something that can be resolved.
Yeah.
We just have to, it's good to let people know that the committee is aware of this, and that we're going to work with the abutters to post the signs.
So if Phil's putting it up to the board, do we have a time frame that the board is going to take that up?
I think we can have, we've been tardy at this, but I think we can get a hold of Phil and then see what his reaction is. If he's talked with the board, maybe they say we're open to moving it. I've got his cell phone now, so I can give him a call and we can go meet with him. And if there's a club official that needs to be involved at the same time, we can orchestrate that.
I think regardless of where those signs sit, us moving forward on our own signage is absolutely extremely important.
Yeah, so that's related to all this, absolutely.
But I don't want to wait another 2-3 weeks for people discussions about trespassing signs where we can make a decision today on some signs that we need to put up right now. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. I think that we've waited long enough to get some signage down there, and we've talked to them enough times about moving the signs, and we haven't had any progressive progress in that. So I'd like to see out of this meeting today that we move forward with.
Okay, point well taken. So, but I guess the ball is back in your court, Mike and Tim, if you're still willing to do this.
Yeah.
To have that discussion with the abutters.
For that with the club. Yeah.
Plus, we discussed temporary signs from the
Right.
town's point of view, right, until a decision's made on color.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so that comes into the next item I wanted to discuss, which is the short and long-term goals. Okay, so one of the first things we mentioned last meeting was better signage at the top of the road, or having a sign. So we need to come up with what that sign is going to say. Is it just one sign or two signs? One at the top of the road, one towards where people will be parking, that kind of thing. So why don't we address that, what we want for a sign?
I'm down with that.
So one thing is, it seems we need a name for the property, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to have a sign. So,
I think we can.
or do we not?
What I'm thinking is if we just get some simple public access signs, public access location, make sure you stay on 40-foot right away. Something to delineate that this is a town property. I don't think we have to get carried away. I mean, we can get some pretty inexpensive signs made up.
Okay.
Just right to the point while this commission evolves, at least we're making baby steps and letting the public know that this is open.
So you're talking about temporary signs until we get something more permanent.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
take on it.
We could try to come up with a name. I don't know who officially makes the name for it, but 36-1 probably is not too terrific. So.
Well, you suggested horseneck, right?
Huh?
Didn't you suggest horseneck? Horseneck launch
or something like that. Yeah, using the horseneck.
Horseneck landing.
Yeah. Somebody said Tim Griswold landing.
I don't think so.
We won't make it too obvious about T as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just brainstorm on that for a few minutes. I'll write this down, some suggestions for names, and then maybe we can vote on it at the upcoming meeting. But again, it's not necessary for the temporary signs that we're discussing. So I have Horseneck Landing.
Horseneck Creek Preserve.
Horseneck Creek Preserve. Any others come to mind? Those sound pretty good.
Buttonball landing, something simple. I don't know. It's kind of cheesy. I like the landing, obviously.
Just get some ideas out here and we can hash this out later. What I'll do is they'll be in the minutes. People can think about it before the next meeting. We can vote on it. Buttonball.
Horseneck Creek Landing.
I got Horseneck Creek Landing.
How about,
See what you got.
And if any other
Horseneck Title Preserve?
I like that. Title Preserve.
McGowan was the one that donated the land, so maybe
Sold, but he was,
An acknowledgement there. So what would that be, McGowan Preserve, or?
Yeah, well, that's what it is with, McCulloch That's what it is with a lot of other places around, right?
Okay.
According to.
I think maybe we could also invite our commissions to come up with
Sure.
suggestions too, okay? So please do that when you meet with your commission next time. So I've got 6 names here, so that's a good start. Okay, so got that out of the way. Temporary signs, how are we going to go about that? Are these pre-made signs that you can buy somewhere?
I just got a bunch of signs made up. It cost me $200 to make up one, a couple different signs. I think that public access location or town land, something, I don't know, what do we use on our other town properties that are public access?
Well, it has a name of the thing,
Right.
so I guess,
I mean, I've seen those just generic public access signs that just say public access, town public access. I don't know how you want to word it, but I don't think there's any input here. I absolutely think we do need
Right
delineated.
at the top of the road, right at the entrance.
Yeah.
It should be, that's the first one.
Public access, all welcome, something like that.
well, you don't have to go overboard. Popcorn.
When you say public access, what are you referring to? You have access to the land, but do you want them in the marsh?
Well,
I think the marsh, we haven't figured that out yet.
No, so where do we want them to be?
Yeah.
Legal, I mean, where do we want to keep them? Because if you say public access, somebody could think, okay, public access, I can go put my boat in, or I could go whatever. And until you delineate where you want them to be,
well, that was one other thing I was going to bring up today is
public access for foot traffic only,
Yeah, that might be good.
you don't want, and you've
That's
got,
be down below. You could say that up top, but down below, you'd have to be more signage to
specific.
say where you can go and where you shouldn't go.
right, and some type of, whether flagging or whatever, keep off,
well, that's one thing I was thinking, somewhere on the right-of-way going down closer to the abutter's property, basically mentioning that beyond this point is private property, no trespass, something to keep the public off of the abutter's property, so it's not fair to them to have to deal with people who are unfamiliar coming down the road and trespassing onto their own personal property. So that was one thing I was thinking is basically, I think it would be valuable to have some sort of split rail fence down our northern property line to delineate the town's property from the neighbor's property, so that way,
a sign on it.
in a sign on it,
Yeah.
like no trespassing beyond this point, town property ends, just because that's...
Okay, so this is good. So we're anticipating if we're allowing people to come in, that we have to deal with certain consequences.
Correct, correct.
So that's an important one.
Further-
Another one would be, I think, parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are we going to allow people to park? How many parking places will there be? So then that needs to be, I think, part and parcel of this, right?
Yeah, well, I think what I was envisioning was a split rail fence down this property line here, right? Basically from the top, across the driveway, over to where it meets the tidal wetlands over here. And then if we can carve out a small split rail section here that defines parking, could be 2, could be 3, could be 4, but we don't need to get carried away because they can park in a flat area there anyway.
Where's the fence, where the split is here?
No, what I was thinking
Driveway?
is right to that right of,
I can't.
yeah, I'm sorry, so
In here?
Oh, right
split
along.
rail fence along this line.
Amanda's house is down here.
Correct, yep. So that way people are prohibited from encroaching over to her property at all, or the property. I was visualizing, you come down to the corner, maybe there's already a flat area on the left and on the right. I was thinking if we can delineate, an area that's 30 feet wide, 12 feet deep, so that the car can pull in and it kind of contains where you want your vehicle traffic.
So do we need to do that?
So wasn't
Okay,
this
good.
where we parked when we
Yeah.
went?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is where you want to put the parking?
Yeah,
Okay.
Park here.
for now, and then as this thing evolves, it can be modified longer term. I just think split rail is pretty inexpensive considering, and it's movable. So that way, if things evolve, we can change its configuration.
So before we do any type of parking, we're going to need somebody to get down and do some mowing, because
Well, that's another.
the last time we were there, it was very overgrown, and
Pretty unclear when you pull down for where to
Well, that's what,
pull onto this road.
I spoke with some people at the Public Works the other day, and they're ready, willing, and able to go down there with a mower and start doing some cleaning up and helping us move this along. So out of this meeting, I was going to make 3 motions, one for signage, one for some improvement to the landscaping, and then the third one was the split rail fence, just to keep, because if people do start coming down, I think at the bare minimum, we owe the neighbors the courtesy of keeping people out of their private property. So
Probably should be something on the other side, because where does it stop? You know, it's not intuitive where the property is.
Correct, yeah. Well, that's why I figured the area that gets mowed or cleared is going to be more conducive to walking, and then the areas that are unimproved are going to be less.
You could have a simple sign on the first property line that says, you know, Town of Old Line Property with an arrow.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
I think that's all you need.
I can agree on this side.
Right.
On this side, I do feel that it's important that we have a fence, especially because the best portion of the property, as far as the usability of this area over here that has the best views and everything, is somewhat closer to the abutter on this side. So I think delineating over here is extremely important, so that way people aren't straggling over into her backyard.
Okay, yeah, no, we hear you. Now, I mean, how is this getting paid for? And when do we approve the budget for these things? How does that work?
We still have a hanging chat on the cost of the survey and stuff. We'll get into that.
Yep.
And then there might have to be some signage saying stay off the wetlands, too.
That was one other time I was thinking is, you know, wetlands beyond this point, please don't trample or something.
Till we get that figured out.
I think it's important that we make it until we really get serious about doing something with a walkway or something that is pedestrian only, you can park here, but...
trample the wetland.
Well, yeah, something worse to that effect. But I mean,
Yes.
you can't bring a boat down there, or a kayak or anything yet. So,
Pedestrian foot traffic only.
yeah.
But I mean, even when pedestrians come down there, they're going to want to do something. They're going to start
Well,
walking
yeah, but
around. They're going to want to go out to the edge of the wetlands area to take a view. It's actually very, overgrown.
Well, that's the key. How it gets mowed, I think, is going to be
Well,
a
we
big
don't
part
want
of
to
it.
just make it a lawn everywhere.
Yeah,
It might
right.
have an area for people to hang around, but the whole thing doesn't have to be manicured.
No, not at all.
I think, like, as a first step in the clearing portion, we get rid of the invasives and make it so we have a slate with all these mature trees, get rid of all the underbrush and the overgrowth that's...
Well, now you're turning to more of a park-like area, which, I think we need to discuss that, if that's really what we want, or something that's more...
Field trip.
More nature.
Yeah.
More of a preserve.
Yeah, right.
Today. We're not going today.
We're really talking about clearing a space for cars.
Why don't we consider having a subcommittee to actually go out and flag a parking area so that Public Works can go mow? I mean, I think we're in agreement of the general area. It just might be more conducive to having a couple people go down there and figure out, okay, can we fit 4 cars in this area? Let's flag it, and we'll have Public Works come in and mow it.
Measure it and stake it out.
Right.
So how do you control or limit, or do you limit, and just keep it very open, the number of parking spaces or people who show up? Is it just haphazard?
I think the town has parking ordinances that might cover the town's ability to regulate parking.
If you
on
make...
property.
Is it based on the size of the property?
spots and kind of have it enclosed, they're going to park along the side of the road.
Yeah.
So
You mean if it's overflow?
I think initially maybe there'll be some curiosity and then maybe it'll simmer down, but I think maybe the whole committee should come down after some initial work and look at it before we do anything, just to see. Because we can't have police patrols down there every day and everything else, it's got to be just like the other ones where people come and go and works out pretty well, so.
Yeah, if there's a way to clearly define what the parking is, and there's signage that says parking designated areas only, so people don't just pull alongside the road, or, you worry about people driving up to the abutter's property and turning around, like you want to avoid all that stuff, so it needs to be pretty obvious, and I think, I went down there yesterday, because you can't walk out on the marsh, so you can't so it's some curiosity you want to see, it's really pretty wildlife, but I don't think, dime-store opinion, that you don't get a ton of parking, but if you have 4 or 5 spots designated, And, worst case scenario, someone like doesn't pull over here, they really want to be down.
So to designate a parking area, what's required? Some stakes put up temporarily and...
Yeah.
It could be a stake with a string, I mean, if you want to get real temporary,
You can use like deadfall or something to kind of designate a box area that's very clearly where you put cars.
I mean, I think if it gets mowed, it's gonna stick out compared to the rest of
Because
it.
otherwise, the only spot to put a car down on the road is like basically along this improved area. So if it's very obvious that there's some parking here.
You'll probably have some surveyor sticks with some polypropylene rope or something to go around just to temporarily designate.
Okay, so how about entertaining a motion, something along the lines of 2 or 3 of us will go out and delineate a parking area for 3 to 4 cars.
I'll make a motion that a subcommittee goes out to evaluate where the best parking spaces would be, and I would not exceed 4 spaces,
Well, that would-
not to exceed 4 spaces.
That would probably be part of the evaluation.
Well,
Again, there's overflow parking.
Officio, so.
oh, I'm sorry, I can't make a motion.
What? Yeah.
I'll make a motion to have a subcommittee to evaluate
Get mine.
the area and number of parking spaces and mark it out on site.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So that'll be an item on at the next meeting. You can report back.
So how are we going to create the subcommittee?
I volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay. So Sloan.
Come on, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, we pick a date and anybody can come.
Can really look at the whole thing.
I think that the area, now, as far as mowing without clearing the whole site, like you can tell, there's been, everything to the right of this existing road has been somewhat maintained. Everything to the left has been less maintained. You can see just by the difference in the height of the growth. I'd like to see the dead trees removed, or anything that's a hazard to a person walking on the site, because there is a couple of trees that are over or leaning against other trees that could create some sort of hazard. So I think getting Public Works down there to remove
Spray paint them.
the dead and dangerous trees immediately, as well as some minimal mowing, would be very beneficial. I don't want to leave this meeting without some sort of improvements going on down there in the next week, because I think that it's the end of the season now, and we want to be able to at least take a little bit of time to take advantage of this opportunity of this property being used, and not wait another month for mowing, especially because Public Works is eager to go down right now and help us improve some space.
Well, I mean, do you have the authority to talk to Public Works to see if they're willing to do that?
But I went down and talked to them already, but they said they need a call from
do you have
Public.
the authority to...
I think if we get a group down there and look at all this stuff, then we can, it's better on location to say, okay, we think this would be good and that would be good.
Well, if we mark it out for them, if that would be the thing for us in the shorter term, to go down there and, like you say, mark it all out, and that way you can, whoever needs to tell them or ask them to go down there and do it, then it'll be obvious what needs to be, where it needs to be done, right?
Can we just ask the town foreman to accompany us
Yeah, on this.
so that we can have his immediate input?
Maybe we could work out the plan generally before we bring him in. He could come in maybe after an hour or something, and we could get our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
When I spoke to the Public Works, he said he needed to speak with somebody such as yourself at the town. He's like, just need somebody to give us the okay from the town, and we'll go down there and do some improvements with that in mind.
But I guess I have to voice, I'm not that in favor at this point of doing a lot of clearing on the property, okay? It revolves around the general question of how we're going to use this. Is it going to be more of a preserve for people to come and watch wildlife and therefore be left in a more natural state? Or, now you're talking about quite a bit of clearing. There's not a lot of dry land there. It'll substantially change the look of it.
I don't think Michael's talking about clearing. It's just saying taking out any dead things that could be an impediment to someone walking.
I'm talking about removing invasives, removing poison ivy, removing things that where people are going to walk, their kids aren't walking away with, poison ivy and prickers.
Do we
I mean,
invasive,
I'm not sure that's necessary.
do we remove invasives from our open space areas?
I think we gotta be down there.
There you go. We have to go down.
You can't speculate as to where the briars are and the poison ivy. You get rid of the hanging trees and stuff, but I think we need to be there really on a nice day and look at it.
Plus, we can dial in the signage.
Could be
Once
next
we
week.
get down there, we can dial in the signage more specifically down there. I mean, it's obvious where the step-off is from upland to marsh, so that's where the signs ought to be.
And you
I
might
mean,
find the best viewing area without, where people could have potentially a bench or something to look.
So when can we meet down there? That's the next thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to have a motion to iron out what we're going to do there, so.
I'll make a motion.
Along the lines of sprucing the place up.
I'll make a motion that we go in and work with Public Works and a subcommittee or however you want to look at it. I'll make a motion to clean out invasives and dangerous overhanging trees that might need to be removed, safety hazards.
I mean, when you say Phragmites,
I don't think someone's going to go out in the marsh and mow the Phragmites right now, but that's an option. I mean, they are invasive and they do disrupt the views.
You're getting into much bigger scope.
Yeah.
all right, so we're at the parking lot, really,
Let's,
for now.
I
Parking
think,
lot and look at the trees and the whole lot.
Hazardous type.
Even if we're removing trees, we still need some sort of mowing down there. Like even on the access road to get down here.
Why don't we pick a day to go down there, weather permitting, and
Scope it out.
But what I don't want to happen is us go down, scope it out, and then wait 3 more weeks to come back to this committee and talk about it, and then another week
the
or two
whole
goes
committee
by.
should go down there.
The whole
Yeah,
committee
I
goes
agree.
down, can we?
I agree, but I don't think we need to wait till the next meeting.
No,
Okay.
maybe next week.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because we can basically do signage, what we think needs to be cleared, and parking all the same, if we do it
You can get a lot
individually,
done.
right?
Okay,
Meeting on site.
And we're allowed to talk at the meeting on site.
What about next Monday?
okay, so we're having an on-site meeting.
I'm open all next week.
Does anybody have any availability this week? I mean, it's supposed to be nice out the rest of the week.
Yeah, this is supposed to be beautiful.
I could do this week. Could do.
Anyone available tomorrow?
Next week.
I can do tomorrow.
What's the weather look like?
Supposed to be
Gorgeous,
beautiful
81
once
and
it
sunny.
clears through.
Not a cloud in the sky. Mainly sunny, high of 81.
Okay. 9 o'clock?
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
Nine in the morning.
Sound View meeting's canceled, so that opens up that.
Yep.
Tomorrow's Wednesday.
We've got an open spot.
We have time to-
Do we need to provide notice of this, but 24 hours ahead?
Wow. I think we just show up.
Okay.
So 9 o'clock tomorrow? Is that what we're talking about?
The 14th at 9?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to discuss parking signs and,
I mean, I'll get some line, I can get some line and some stakes, and I'll bring a couple of sledgehammer, 2-pound hammer, and we'll,
I like that idea.
Do we still want Public Works to meet us down there for
I
tomorrow's
think
sidewalk?
that would be-
Or is that too
maybe
short
let's
notice?
just
Why don't we
do
see
it
what we can work
ourselves
out,
and
and then
then-
we'll have Public Works.
Ed's only a phone call away.
Yeah.
He could be there in 10 minutes if you needed him to, so.
Yeah.
We get there.
Once we frame out what we want to do, we don't want to have any intramural stuff.
Can we,
Just put him on hold, just tell him that we might need him at Buttonball at like 9:30 or 9:45.
I like that idea.
Just,
Ed?
yeah, just put him on hold. Want me to text him and say, we might
Yeah.
need you tomorrow? We'll let you know by 9:30.
can we propose on the sidewalk motions as far as
Actually, it's-
a little more clear where we want to sign and whatnot?
I don't know
If it's open to the, or if it's announced properly? Or do we have to, if we come to consensus, but then have to wait until the next subcommittee meeting to actually prove anything? I'm just not sure how that works,
Yeah.
or what we can and can't do. Like, can we suggest motions?
Well, there might be, if needed, there could be a meeting scheduled maybe Friday or something and say, okay,
Run through.
this is, now that we've seen it, let's kind of,
dial it in.
I like that.
So we'll need a subsequent meeting to approve anything we decide, any ideas we come up with tomorrow. That's what we'll do.
Moves it along, I'm all about it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like this training.
I'll suggest that meeting for next Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I'm out next Tuesday.
Yeah, why don't we try to accomplish it this week? Is anybody
20th.
opposed to this week?
It can wait a week.
What? What are we doing now?
So we're going to have a site walk tomorrow. We're going to come up with ideas of where to put the parking, signs, the extent of clearing. We're going to discuss that. And then at the subsequent meeting, we'll agree to whatever we agree to there. And that meeting I'm proposing for a week from today.
I'll be away all next week.
But you're away.
Let's try to
Okay.
dial it in this week if anybody
So
else
then-
is available.
Yeah, I'll be gone.
Let's go to Friday at 9 o'clock this week.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the 20th at 8 o'clock, you're saying?
Yep.
No.
Next Tuesday?
No, this week, Friday.
This Friday.
16th,
Oh, Friday.
right? 16th?
At what?
Does 8 o'clock work for people?
Sure.
Sure.
Friday? Yeah.
Is 15 better?
As long as it's not raining.
Is 8:15 better? Is 8:05 better?
So it's a follow-up the 16th at 8?
Yes.
Where? Here?
Here.
Yeah.
So I'll withdraw my motion concerning the subcommittee.
Okay. That is no longer needed.
Committee report.
8 o'clock. Okay, so we're meeting tomorrow at
9.
did we say?
9.
9 o'clock.
Okay.
That'll be perfect because I can drop my kids off and still make it over there.
Okay. So
For signs, to discuss signs, parking, and clearing.
yes, signs, parking. Okay.
Limits of clearing.
Okay. So that takes care of some short-term goals. I had on my list, name the property. I guess we can push that off. We came up with suggestions. Okay, we had mentioned identify parking area. So we're dealing with that. And then I had, in the minutes, we said conduct the minimal landscape improvements, but whatever we discuss, we'll pick up on that on Friday, okay? All right. But I think, let's see what time we got here. Do you want to keep these meetings on schedule?
Well, I've got something I want to talk.
Okay, go ahead.
At the prior meeting, we talked about the cost of the survey, which, because the survey was $1,200, the wetlands, putting the elevations and putting the wetlands on there was $800, so Gates is $2,000, and then Snarsky is $300. I think it's actually $2,400, $2,420, something like that. So just about $2,500 for the various elements.
Great.
We had the committee representatives from the commissions talked about a third.
Yes.
And I got an email from Rachel, which said, she wanted to see the survey. If there are indeed no wetlands on the property, I believe the commission would have to have a longer discussion of whether or not we will contribute our budget to this effort. And I think the inland wetlands are outside the border, so there are no inland wetlands on the property. So, and then Chris Staub sent an email saying he didn't see why harbor management should be involved paying because it's a town property already. So those were two sort of contradictions to the discussion we had last time. So I don't know whether the delegates from the various commissions have talked with their chairmans, but it seems like we have we have contradictions.
So I can speak for what we have said at inland wetlands. We unanimously agreed to the third of the survey, regardless of what the cost was. I think Rachel's referring to going beyond after this initial cost of the survey. But regardless of whether there are inland wetlands and they're not on that property, but they would still be subject to the 100-foot review period or review area. So I know it's not a big part of that. I mean, it would be nice if somehow we could fund this committee without having to deal with 3 different committees again. I think that would be probably be the best solution.
Well, this is just the money part.
Right.
So you think Wetlands is on board for contributing a third of the 2,100 and something?
We voted for it. I brought it up at a previous meeting, and it was asked by resolution that Wetlands would pay a third of the survey cost.
Okay.
All 3 of us would pay a third. All 3 of us would pay a third.
Yeah, I was just taking
that
back
part of it.
her memo. You know, it seemed like she said,
Well, I think Rachel's, what she's getting at is from the survey forward.
Yeah.
yeah, but like split rail fences
Yes,
and
exactly.
all that.
What are the other properties in town, you know, the walking trails and all of that with open space? Who pays for all of that?
Well, Open Space does most of that, and
Voluntarily?
they have a steward who does the work, like chainsaw stuff. You know, if we said, gee, we'll all go down there and bring our pickup trucks and saws and mowers and have a ball, somebody could become injured, and I guess that's
Liability.
a liability.
Yeah.
So, I guess, well, do we know whether or not Harbor Management's on board with the third?
I think we can get them on board. The concern we had is that why are individual committees putting money into a town project that could be funded by the town directly? I don't know.
Your committee funded by the...
No, we take our money from
The moorings.
You don't have...
They have a whole separate
We have our own budget, but
I know.
we don't get sourced funding from the town. Our source funding comes from our revenue streams of the moorings, which is very minimal on that.
And of course, we know there will likely be signage expense.
Yeah.
If we do a fence, that's gonna be a bunch. Lord help us, if we have a dock, that's gonna be
Yeah,
a big
well, I think there's ways to accomplish funding goals. I just think that in the immediate, like the fencing, like is there an ability for the town to release some money for a fence?
But the bill is a couple of weeks old, no
Okay,
big
yeah.
deal. So if we, Open Space, I believe, is on board with a third. They offered to do the whole thing, but, you know, people didn't want to.
Yeah, no, I think, I'm confident that we'll give you a third.
All right.
I want to make that,
So we can still assume that?
yeah.
I thought we agreed to that.
Well, we did,
Well,
and then
yeah, I
Chris,
agreed to it, but
Chris,
the chairman sort of came back and said,
Yeah.
not so fast.
Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, no.
I mean, so if you guys.
Yeah, we'll twist his arm.
No, well, that's fine. I'm committed to, our co-chair is here. I don't know if she's able to speak or not, but,
Okay.
Carrie, do you want to say something?
We have a meeting tonight, and, this has been 6 months from the beginning conversation to now. We're just getting through the phase or what. So I think tonight we're going to discuss how much. We've never really seen how much all these surveys have been brought to us yet about the dollar amount, and I'm thrilled. But obviously, we're really interested in contributing, but we just have to have dialogue.
so we got a total of 2,400, is that what the?
Let's say not to exceed 2,500. I think it's 2,450, something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
When's the last thing that Joe Stamp
no.
Okay, so let's confirm that Friday's meeting, because we all are going to be able to meet with them.
I'm not even having a
This
response for you
week.
tomorrow morning, because our meeting's tonight.
Our meeting tonight.
Yeah.
Well, meeting, Open Space is Wednesday.
I got you.
Okay, so Friday we'll
Yeah.
confirm that, okay?
All right.
Thanks for bringing that up.
No, I was just gonna say that the thing is that Rich and Dick Gates ought to get paid, because they did it, they did it quickly for us. and-
Yeah.
and we
One thing I'd
shouldn't
like to
drag
see
it out.
Dick Gates do is go back out there and flag the 40-foot right-of-way. I mean, he depicted it on the map, but there's no flag supporting it.
That wasn't part of the task.
Yeah,
And it wasn't.
And I think he said just take 20 feet on either side of the center line of the
Okay,
road.
if you guys are okay with that, I'm fine with that.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
For our purposes now, yeah, there's no issue there. Okay. So, let's cover quite a bit of ground, but I think we have to start talking about longer-term goals. So who's going to take responsibility for this property over the long term?
Probably the Board of Selectmen will have to make that call. Because, I mean, if
So-
there's consensus with the commissions, that's one thing, but if it, I probably, it's being a town property, ultimately, I think it would have, unless there's total consensus at this level, I guess probably the selectmen will have to make that call.
Well, I would suggest that if there are various groups that want control of it, that they develop a proposal to us of how they're going to maintain it. And then give us the 2 proposals, and then we go on that.
I mean, to me, there's an outstanding conflict of interest with open space maintaining it, personally. At the current DNA of the board, I think there's a conflict of interest with open space maintaining it. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but that's just the way I feel.
Well, I think, to be fair, we have to let groups propose what they would envision going forward. Because
How many properties does Harbor Management supervise?
6, was it?
Harbor, Pilgrim's
Tantamaheg.
Landing, Tantamaheg,
There's 2 on,
Berry Landing State
Well,
Park.
supervise. I mean,
We
I
supervise.
mean, I remember Tantamaheg, it was all about the landing, the water, but we collaborated on, you know, the signage and some of that stuff when John McDonald was there. But, I mean, do you actively manage different properties in terms of the hard ground and the park-like part of it?
Yeah, I know for certain on Pilgrim's Landing, I know for certain on Berry Landing State Park, over at the DEP dock there, where we maintain all of that area upland of that.
not the 2 down in Old Estates. They're on their own, right?
Which one is that?
Hawkins?
What?
On Hawkins Road?
Yeah, there's 2, there's one by,
They can pass that complaint about boats being on the town property to you.
oh, sure. What?
There you go. Yeah. I know you're talking about the corner there, Hawkins, isn't it? Yeah, on the right there.
And then
Just
there's,
before Doyen.
Yep.
yeah, right, that one, yeah, and then the one where there is a little landing next to it, and then, the one by Lieutenant River.
Yep.
But, I mean, we don't mow, or we don't go down there and pick up trash or anything, right?
Well, I mean, definitely. I know, like, Mike McGee and myself have gone down and...
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
weed whacked and done stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because if we didn't do it, Public Works doesn't get to it, and then it just becomes a nuisance.
Yeah.
So who would the proposals go to?
would go to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Or do we make a motion on this?
I mean, you can present, and then we would...
Well, if there's consensus, you could recommend something, but probably to get this settled once and for all someday, we're going to have to, probably the Board of Selectmen would be the way to go.
I mean, I think a lot of it hinges on whether or not it's possible, feasible to have a boat launch there, right?
Well, it's definitely...
If there's a boat launch there, then it seems to me it falls into the purview of the harbor management, okay? But, okay, I'm new to all this, but it seems like there's a lot of work and expense, which may be possible to get a launch in there. So that's something I think the committee needs to explore.
Yeah, but I can tell you...
And also, getting back to Martha's, suggestion or recommendation for these proposals, I mean, obviously, that would be harbor management. You have to come, in your proposal, you discuss that, and that's something we'd have to vet and talk about. So, I mean, the committee, as far as I'm concerned, is open to that. So, on the other hand, there's a possibility that, for various reasons, may not be possible to do. I think we have to be honest about that at this point.
If I was being honest,
Let me speak.
Yep.
Okay, so it could be that it could result in being maintained more as a preserve or a natural area, maybe with bird watching point or something of that nature. So I think, again, we just have to investigate it and see where the chips fall. So I'm not biasing any one path or the other. Inland wetlands doesn't have a dog in this fight, right?
I don't think we have a dog in the fight, no.
So.
I mean, I've said it before, I would like to see the property used as deeded, which is for public access to the water. So I see this more as a property like Pilgrim Landing, and I think it is more swayed towards harbor management. I'm here because I thought this committee was going to come up with proposals. So I would like us to come up with a proposal among ourselves to present to the Board of Selectmen,
Well, that's right, yeah. I think we all think that way.
not have conflicting proposals from the various commissions in town.
Okay,
So work on it, all three of us,
Together.
present to the Board of Selectmen, rather than three individual ones coming to the Board of
I would
Selectmen.
hope so, yeah.
okay,
I would too.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but I think maybe to do that, we need input from the various
Sure.
commissions of what,
Yeah.
how they accomplish whatever goals they want.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent goal.
Yeah.
But I agree, I absolutely agree with, the deed says Connecticut River access. So it's specific in its access to the water, not just being a preserve. It's a condition in the deed that if we don't use it for water access, it shall revert. Now, I know it's probably not gonna ever revert, but I think we should honor the donation that was spelled out.
Okay, I mean, that's fine, and that's a good guidance, but let me just ask, what's it gonna cost to put something in? And how much time will it take to do it? Just your,
Yeah, my personal professional opinion on this, being that I've gotten 3 marinas approved, I think that within a year and a half, you can have a full-blown Army Corps and DEP permit. I think that if we use some of the resources that we have within our own group of people, and as well as within the town, that we can get drawings and stuff done less expensive. We have a survey, we can get a CAD drawer to draft up a docket, a dock layout proposal, and I know DEEP is willing to work with us in moving that along. So it's definitely going to cost, probably a few $1,000s to have all the engineering and drawings done, but I think that it's all feasible within a pretty short time frame. It's just
so you said a few thousand for the plan, how much to put a dock in?
I think that is going to be dependent upon what ultimately gets approved in the location that DEEP accepts. What's that? I mean, I could even donate a dock. I have docks to donate. That's not a problem. I think the biggest expense is going to be the piles and the lumber going across the gangway. It's just
I was looking for a ballpark estimate.
I'd say not to exceed $10,000 or $15,000. I think that's what we can get it done for. I mean, honestly, I have the dock to donate. That's not a problem. So that's one expense out the door.
Would you envision a float?
Yeah, basically a 10 by 10 float of some sort down on the on Horseneck Creek, based on our feedback from DEP preliminary.
4-foot wide walkway.
Is there
But only
any
2 feet high.
documentation about the depth of the Horseneck Channel at different tides?
I've been down there with a full moon, and there's barely a trickle of water in that place at low water. It is bad for part of the time, but most of the time it's okay.
About 2 hours.
So in the 12-hour cycle between like low tides,
Yeah.
how many hours are navigable?
Probably 9.
Kayak?
I'd say at least.
An hour and a half to 2 hours either side of low water to high water, and then back down again.
9 hours.
But when I was in there, it would be conceivable, depending on the length of the ramp, that it actually sits on the mud with a moon tide, northwest wind, that kind of thing. But the rest of the time, it'll float.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start wrapping up the meeting here. I want to give some time for public comment.
There is grant money.
That was literally the next thing.
Okay, that's a good point, yeah.
SHIP grant will cover at least 50%, up to 50%, sometimes more, up to 100% of the development, design, and construction costs.
Okay, so look, in the interest of time, we're going to meet tomorrow. We're going to meet on Friday. Basically, following up on what John said, I don't know if we need a motion for this, but I think what we need to do is start hearing ideas about proposals from the 2 commissions, so that our commission can start discussing those in the effort of working towards a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. Okay, so
Fair enough.
that's the charge to open space and also to harbor management to start coming up with that. And then, we'll start picking up on that, maybe not at the very next meeting, but the meeting following that. Okay? So, briefly, just some housekeeping stuff I wanted to go over. Now, we have the meetings coming up this week, but for me, it would be easier to schedule meetings on a monthly basis at a set time and date. So I'm wondering if let's say the first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock would work for everybody going forward. so I can start scheduling meetings,
Our management is the second Tuesday, right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm good through December.
First,
At least.
first Tuesday?
First Tuesday of the month, 8 o'clock.
First Tuesday at 8?
Yeah. Is that working for everybody here?
It'll be October 4th.
Okay.
And you got to classify them as special meetings because they're not already documented at the town clerk's office. When you get to the end of the year, you're supposed to send your meeting schedule for the ensuing year, and then those are regular meetings, and if you deviate from that or add, those are special meetings. So since there's no meetings on file, this is all new, everything's a special meeting until next year.
Okay. Okay.
So the next regular meeting is for October, first Tuesday?
Yep.
4th.
Or whatever date that is.
Do we need to post an agenda for Friday's meeting? Because at least we have 24
Did you
hours.
say second Tuesday?
Yeah, that would be appropriate.
First Tuesday.
So it'll be
The
the
October 4th.
4th of October.
Yep. Okay, and again, a primary topic for that meeting is going to be starting to talk about the proposals.
Yep.
Okay?
10/4/11.
All right.
6.
Quickly, anything anybody wants to bring up quickly that I haven't touched on that you think is urgent? But I do want to give the public some time to comment. And we have some people here.
Is there a budget mechanism in this town's budget for things like a split rail fence, or is there?
Not hanging around.
Okay. Committee members, okay, public, any comments?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay, Amanda?
I just want you to be aware that the word preserve is usually reserved for the land trust property. And so our open space properties are called open space. So if you put the name preserve, it might imply to the public that it was a land trust. So just something to be aware of when you're making a name for the property. The other thing is, before you have anyone start spear cutting, I think you should identify some of the plants and see what is there that you need to preserve or want to preserve. And like you talked about, the selectmen have talked about, making it more of a natural landscape versus a park, leaving things in their natural state is very nice. Our philosophy in open spaces is more living organisms than dead trees and live trees. So when you walk our open spaces, you will see dead trees along the trail, things like that. It adds to. And last, I just want to say that we have been mowing until recently the driveway, but we were admonished in Facebook, so we stopped. So we would be glad to continue doing that. Public Works has a busy schedule. They take care of some of our open spaces, and it's a small property, and it's a narrow road. So my tractor goes down there all the time, and it would continue if you approve it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for that offer.
And just be mindful, any kind of tree cutting of any consequence, we have a tree commission which supervises trees on town property, so we have to go to them for,
And
What about a
I'm on the
tree?
tree commission.
What, just for informational purposes, what about a tree that has fallen?
Oh, I think if it's a hazard.
But it's sort of stuck.
No, that's a dead tree, but,
Okay.
if you're going to cut down a maple tree or something because it's in the way, you'd probably want to check into them.
I'm all about keeping as many trees as we can. I think the trees definitely offer a environment.
Yeah.
But I do think that some of them might need to be limbed up, trimmed up.
Safety concern,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
we can look at that tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll discuss that tomorrow. Okay, any other public comment? Anybody on the phone? Speak up? Okay, nobody? Okay, take a motion to adjourn.
Second. I'll motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Okay, second. Okay. All in favor?